Yeah, unfortunately. So we're going to do things in a different way, because at the moment there's still really no business going through there. There's a few Eastern European countries, but none of the mainstream countries yet, and possibly back half of possibly.
I think we might have already gone. There's been a bit of a change. We might already be live.
That's all right.
That's fine. You can tell us all a little bit more about your. Let me just double check.
There's been
yes, because they've removed 2 steps of the regular going live process that were still there 2 days ago. Sorry about that.
Kind of important for people.
Okay, yeah. Tell me more about Egypt.
As I say, I mean, it's a little bit frustrating at the moment, because obviously we've got the summertime now there, the weather condition is good, the dive centers really want to be active, but you are frozen. Are you still there? Are you there? Now I cannot hear you. I think you're muted.
There we go.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Seems to have some technical issues here. But yes, we are going. It's going. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me more.
So yeah, as I say, it's a little bit frustrating for Egypt right now, because obviously we have the summertime. The vaccine program is running really efficiently for the tourism industry. They're really making a push to get dive center staff all vaccinated, and the crews of the boat, and they're making sure everybody, like in hospitality, in the bars and restaurants, everything like that. So Egypt is really making a massive push to prepare as a country for tourism to return. So it's really now just in the hands of the European countries as to, when they will permit that.
Yeah.
So there's a few Eastern European countries who are going to Egypt, and you'll still have your handfuls of people from UK, from Germany, from Austria. I mean, technically, whether they're supposed to be there or allowed to be there or not is but it's just a shame, because really the country is set up and it's ready to have all the people back, and they're not the ones who's saying that you can't come in. They're not the ones who's put in such high demands on everybody to come. It's everywhere else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit frustrating from that side. So this is why I've come back now. We'll sit here in the UK, and whenever other countries will open up and allow me to go and do a training event somewhere, then for sure, I'll be on the road again, and hopefully back end of this year, if then the flights are now resumed back to Egypt again, the touristic flights, then yeah, for sure want to try and get back over there. But it's with everybody at the moment, and with everything, it's just complete uncertainties, and it's just changing weekly, monthly, and it makes it very hard to plan ahead, really.
Yeah, and especially the flights for me is one of those topics where they are like making the whole situation a bit tricky, because you don't know now, are the flights going, are they not, and what is the price going to be in future of flights, because now obviously the airline industries have to make up for something. So am I going to pay €1,000 for a flight to Egypt? Because then I'm probably not going to go.
Yeah, and it is a gamble. Everybody knows that if you want to travel at the moment, it is a gamble. So with my flights recently for Egypt, so I'd gone with Turkish Airlines via Istanbul, because they had the more consistent flights. Unfortunately, about a week before I was due to travel back, England put Turkey on their red quarantine list. So it's like, so you try and then change your flight and get back to UK before like the deadline, but of course everybody's doing the same thing. So ultimately, you then, you lose those flights. You have to rebook through another airline, through another country. The airlines have been okay. They'll still give you credit. With these ones now coming back, I'm not sure, because obviously we chose to cancel. The flight was still running. So from Turkish Airlines side, they're like, hey, listen, the flight is there. You are now choosing not to come via Istanbul. But yeah, it is a gamble. But within our job, within our industry, which is travel, then if you don't take that risk, then you're not going anywhere.
Don't you like to go diving there in Wales, Cornwall away?
Yeah. Absolutely. And when the water temperature gets back into double figures and the air temperature goes above 10, then I'll consider dusting off the twin set in the garage. No, I'm not a hardened UK diver, but the sites now are busy. The inland sites are busy. Coastal areas are really picking up again. So the domestic market is actually it's doing well. And probably the lack of international travel has done the domestic market quite a good favor, actually, because people still want to go diving. They still need to keep refreshed. And so where they can, they're now choosing to go more local. So it's great for the local businesses and dive centers and inland sites.
Yeah, that for sure. I mean, we've seen that even from within SSI, that we have a lot of pickup in local markets in like Germany, Austria, Switzerland, where you have a lot of divers that usually go abroad.
Yeah.
They all put their dry suits on, get ready to
dust them off, patch up the holes.
Yeah, because I'm that person. Usually my temperature where I switch to dry suit is like 24 degrees.
Yeah, I'm dry suit all year round, even in Egypt summertime. But no, it's right. I mean, it's just the downside, of course. Well, from the UK side, it's just going to be the unpredictability of the weather. Okay, the inland sites are fine, whatever it is. But if you really want to get off the coast and do some nice coastal diving, whether it's South Coast or for me off Pembrokeshire, then you really need to have that decent weather window. And at the moment, it just hasn't been so favorable conditions just yet. But hopefully soon, summertime is going to kick in, and then we'll see.
Summertime, even though summertime day is still not really. It's not toasty and warm and nice and comfy.
No, but I'm also hoping by summertime that I'm going to be able to be back on the road again. So. Yeah, we've got to wait and see a little bit what happens. But
awesome. We already have a whole lot of people in the room. We have people from Portugal, South Africa, Monet is here, Gord's from Manila is here, Kareem is here, and he says Condor and Air Cairo are working.
Yeah, there's a lot of flights, the scheduled flights that are working. It's the charter flights that are the ones that are very heavily restricted. So yeah, scheduled airlines are still there. But no, that's cool. What are these people doing on a Sunday? They should be out enjoying the weekend.
They enjoying the weekend by listening to us, apparently. That's how special we are. Yeah, even from Australia, Turkey. We already have our first questions coming in. Benjamin, I see your question. That question will actually be answered as soon. Yeah, we can actually go ahead and maybe just start off. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Scuba Sunday. Today, we have a special guest that has been on the Facebook Lives with us. Of course, she's been a host before, but today she's in our recreational space. Cat, what are you doing here?
I tell you, it's a bit odd, as you say. Normally, I'm sat in your chair. I'm the host, and normally it's on Tuesday with our tech talk. So yeah, this is a bit of a different one for me. But no, pleasure to be here on the weekend with you, and nice to be on the other chair.
Thanks so much for giving us a little bit of your quarantine time. I know that you talked earlier that you're still in quarantining yourself, because Kat is very responsible. She's following the rules.
That's it. Today is the last day, and then we're done.
Awesome. I'm still lucky to get you in then. Okay, so I'm just going to go straight. I've got a bunch of questions that I will just ask. First of all, because I mean, yes, you've been here, but you've been usually the interviewer. So I want to know a little bit more about yourself. Tell us a little bit more about Cat yourself.
Good. So anyway, like, hi to everybody who's joined us today. As Corinna says, fantastic to have everybody once again for the Scuba Sunday. So my name is Cat Brown. I'm working for the head office of SSI. Normally you find me dealing with the technical diving side, the extended range side of the programs. But my time and focus changes quite a lot now. So primarily I'm working within, let's say, the general development team of SSI. So this is more of a background role, looking at putting together programs not only for extended range, but now also assisting with the recreational programs. So I am a training director for the extended range, which keeps me busy in training events and various different places. Plus then I have a technical diving operation in Egypt, which is temporarily on hold, but that's there in some shape or capacity. But no, mainly my time now is spent, as I say, in the background with the head office, looking at the product development side. So from when we receive a starting concept of a program, an idea, to then actually following that through from start to finish to hopefully seeing it live in its digital format for all of the customers. So that's me.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, you've done that and a lot of more for our new program, Decompression Diving, right? So tell us, it's our topic for today. So what is decompression diving?
Yeah, so before I go into the details of the program, just want to explain to everybody that whenever a program is being put together, it's a big group effort. It's there's many industry experts involved in it who are providing content, not only then to people actually writing materials, to the editorial side, to the graphic side, to then people who are doing the programming in SSI and making everything going together. So it's really important when we're doing this now to reflect that this is a massive team effort. It just so happens today that I'm the one sat on the screen who's going to be talking about it. But so yeah, with the decompression program, the decompression program actually has been in demand for actually quite a long time. What is being recognized, especially in like resort markets, there are many experienced divers who have great buoyancy control, who have good gas consumptions, and they're in some wonderful locations. And let's say that they've reached the limit of where the non-decompression diving training will get them. And to a certain degree, these divers are probably going beyond that decompression limit, rightly or wrongly, you know, we're not going to judge or anything like that. But the fact is that they have the capabilities to go beyond that decompression limit to a certain degree, and they have been doing it, but they've never had the training and the safety awareness to be able to do it in the right way. So this market has been there for a long time. It's just been trying to figure out how to tap into that market in the right way. For some of our viewers who are maybe coming from the club systems, the amateur organizations such as BZAC, the British Sub-Aqua, or CMAS, or VDST, what is interesting with those organizations is that they actually teach their divers the early concepts of decompression diving from the very beginning. They've never really segregated and said, right, here is recreational, here is technical. They've kind of already built it in, because of the fact that decompression diving can either be planned, or maybe some people find themselves in decompression by accident. So the club systems have taken the approach and the attitude, well, better we give the divers the training and the knowledge to know how to deal with that if that situation occurs, which then ultimately then will increase diver safety. The professional agencies such as SSI, SDI, PADI have had a slightly different approach over the years. Historically, we just focused on the no decompression diving. And if people wanted to go beyond that, then you had your whole other section of technical diving. Eventually, over the years, this concept is slightly changing. And that's primarily due to technology, information, everything has been changing over the years. So yeah, the program has been a requirement for a while. We've just needed to figure out how to fit it in the right way.
We actually already have questions from the audience coming in. Alec is asking, it seems like the DECO program is the equivalence of PADI's Tech Rec 40.
Yeah, so there's many different programs within a few of the agencies which want to take on this similar concept, which is taking a recreational diver in a recreational equipment configuration and teaching them the basics of how to conduct a decompression dive. Where SSI has made a difference in our focus is we've really embraced what we'll call, let's say, pragmatic dive planning, and we're embracing the use of the multi-gas computers. So when this is where it's different to our extended range nitrox program, which I'll talk about a little bit later, because with that, and like with the PADI Tech 40, it's a lot of hand dive planning. You would have a dive software program, and from that you're writing down, here's my depth time, here is my first deco time, second deco time, third, and you're following quite a rigid plan. Whereas with our new decompression diving program, we still need to use a dive planning software that is correct to establish our limits. Then the emphasis is, while we're in the water, is to actually to follow the mixed gas computer, which now has the ability to show us time to surface or ascent time. And we're using that to then be able to, let's say, respond to that pragmatically in the water rather than having such a fixed schedule. So with our program, it's really emphasizing on the need and the knowledge of what our computer is showing us, having the ability to switch gases on the computer. So we're minimalizing time in classroom, minimalizing hand dive planning time, and actually making a program that's really realistic to what divers are actually doing. So yeah, you could say it's similar to the PADI Tech 40, apart from we've now just modernized it and embraced the technology that we have of multi-gas computers.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with what you just said, is that it makes sense. And it's something that people would probably already do, but without the safety training. Now you give them the safety training, but still keeping it simple and easy. So it is actually something that they can easily apply while they're diving, and very well definitely using.
Yeah, and I think, if you look at the diving industry these days, and I'll take a typical safari boat in the Red Sea, that's my home ground, that's my environment. And majority now of the divers, they not only just have a diving computer on their wrist, I mean, this is almost mandatory for everybody, but now I would say a very, very high percentage are coming with multi-gas computers. Not necessarily trimix computers, but a diving computer that can at least have the ability for 2 nitrox gases. The sad thing is that a lot of these divers, they have this computer, but they either don't know how to use it, or let's say they don't know how to use all of its functions because they've never been trained to use their functions. So they're buying this really nice computer and they're probably using, I don't know, 20% of its ability.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's such a shame. And I think this DECO program, if you want to think of it in a completely different way, rather than think of this program being focused on the decompression part, how about let's focus on teaching people what their dive computer actually has the ability to do. And if you want to show somebody what their computer can do and how to use those functions, then inevitably you need to take that computer into decompression to then see all of the indications it's going to show, your ascent, your ceiling depth you're going to go to, how long you need to stay at a depth. And so the learning how to do decompression diving almost becomes secondary. But what they're learning is all of those functions of their computer. Yeah. Because I think it's important from a safety perspective. If you're going to carry a piece of equipment, you need to know how to use that piece of equipment in its entirety. Otherwise, it doesn't have the value, right? And it's exactly now these days, we also have the computers with the gas integration. Now, gas integration, I will be honest, before the development of this program, I was not dealing with computers with gas integration and transmitters. But the technology is now there. The reliability of gas transmitters is increased. And now what we can do is on your one computer screen, you have the active information telling you when you're going to reach a time to surface limit and when you can reach a minimum gas limit. And these features we didn't have in computers 10 years ago. So we would have loved to have put this program together 10 years ago, but we needed to wait for technology to catch up. And so this is why we really want to embrace that computer part of it. And as I say, maybe the decompression is the secondary perspective.
Yeah. So Brad Turner actually made a comment here. He said you should be teaching both run times and running modern computers. What do you have to say to that? Because I mean, we essentially do it still, right?
Yeah, absolutely agree. And part of our program is going to be teaching them. So you're using the dive planning software. The dive planning software will produce, let's say, your backup plan. So in this case, with this program, we have our contingency plan is if we have an issue with our decompression gas. So if we have an issue with our decompression gas and it is not available, we have to have a plan for doing the whole dive on the back gas. And this is what the dive planning software is creating. And so we need to go through with the student what that dive planning software is showing them. And so you're getting them to write it down. Here's your depth, here's your time, here is your run time. So we're definitely, you can't teach decompression, you can't teach about TTS without them having the understanding of what a run time is. So yeah, it's impossible to do the program without covering those concepts. And especially so if divers do enjoy the decompression diving and they want to then go on further into extended range, then you've already taught them those grounded concepts about dive planning and run times. So yeah, no, definitely it's super important. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah. And I think that brings us into our next, there's a bit of a discussion going on in our chat, and it kind of brings us into our next two questions. And the first one of those is, why did SSI actually create a decompression diving? Why did we decide, or why did you decide that this is a program that might help the industry, but might be necessary in some ways?
Well, as I said before, I mean, the demand has always been there in terms of there's this audience who we already know are making limited decompression dives. And as we've said, rightly or wrongly, they don't have the training to do it, they don't have the certification to do it, but they for sure have the capabilities of doing it, right? So if that audience is there, then as SSI, we have two different options. We can either be naive, close our eyes, turn away, say it's not happening, it should not be happening. If you want to do decompression diving, you jump straight into extended range, you go on your twin set, or you learn rebreather. Or we can actually acknowledge that this audience is there. And this is an audience, many of them, they don't have a desire to change their equipment configuration. They're happy in their BCD. They're happy with their single cylinder. So they don't want to change configuration. A lot of them may have no interest in increasing depth in the future. They're happy doing their 30 to 40 meter dives. So that they have no intention on going, let's say, full on into technical diving. So if this audience is there, as SSI, we feel that then it's our duty, if you like, then let's provide them at least with the training so they can do the dives that they want to do, that they're capable of doing, but let's teach them how to do it properly and safely. we tried to create a program for this market years ago, which was called the Extended Range Nitrox program. And this was designed as being, if you like, the bridge, connecting the recreational divers to the technical divers. We knew that the audience was there. We knew the market was there. The program should have done better than what it did. So,
yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, it ticked all of the boxes, but the program was created many years ago. And that was before most people had this multi-gas computer on their wrist. That was before we all had the smartphones with easy accessible dive planning software. So that was years ago when there was a lot of hand dive planning. So probably at that point, the academics was just too heavy for what the audience wanted. And probably the skill set was also too heavy for what the audience wanted. And as a result, we found that the program didn't receive as much of our participation as we thought it should. So again, we had a couple of options. You can either just sit there with that program and just say, well, okay, it only has a small audience. Or what we did, we sat and we looked and we evaluated and we brainstormed and problem solved to say, why is it not doing very well? And what do we need to do to change that? We could have changed the existing extended range nitrox program. We could have put all of the content and we could have changed that. It was decided against that because maybe that would just create more confusion when you completely change the philosophy and everything behind it. It could also be because the extended range nitrox program fell under the umbrella of extended range terminology. Maybe the audience was already thinking that program's not for me.
Yeah.
Just simply because of the title of it.
It sounds like a lot of studying.
It does. And, as much as we try to say extended range, it's not as harsh as technical. It all means the same thing. So, we tried to sort of blindside them a little bit, but it didn't work. So just by changing the program content, if it was still called extended range nitrox, still more than likely the uptake wouldn't have been there. So it was decided that, okay, let's have a clean slate. Let's start and build this program completely in the recreational side of the world. So the instructors can gain instructor ratings by the traditional recreational approaches. You can purchase the program as a specialty bundle with all your other recreational programs. So by having a clean approach, probably we're going to find it's going to be much more successful and it will hit that target audience, which is what we aimed it to be at, really.
I 100% agree. In the comments, we have a lot of people talking generally more on the XR side. So they're talking about the tech rec programs, but also about raids, technical programs. What is the essential difference between decompression diving and now, let's say, XR nitrox or XR?
So there's not really a major difference. We've got to remember that the training, all training is like a continuum. Yeah. And for years within SSI, we've been trying to segregate this recreational diving being there and technical diving being there. All training from when somebody even learns as an open water diver is progressive. They learn to dive, they make a speciality to change their breathing gas to nitrox. They make a speciality to increase their depth. Then they're going to be increasing their training to go beyond the decompression limit. Then they're going to increase their training to change their equipment configuration, maybe into a twin set or side mount to increase their gas volume. Then they're going to continue their training again to change the breathing gas into trimix. Then they're going to continue their training to increase depth again. So, for me, it's not like you have one set of diving sits here and one is there. It's all a complete continuum of training. And I think this is the only way that people will really understand the progression, is that they understand from the beginning that everything, you just build your knowledge, build your skill set on top of where you were last. So yeah, I try foremost to avoid getting into, well, recreational diving here and technical diving there. It's all building skills and knowledge.
That's a very nice point. I completely agree. It's a spectrum, not two different things.
Correct. But the hardest thing is that our industry over the years has created two separated systems.
Yeah.
So it's really hard now to try and change the mindset to bring that back together again.
You've kind of already answered my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Why is the program only be created now, not 10 years ago?
Easy answer, technology. As I say, we tried years ago when you had the extended range nitrox program, and this is when not many people had a diving computer on their wrist that was multi-gas. So they only had a single gas computer, or many of the people doing decompression dives were still using timing devices. So what was happening years ago, there was limited dive planning software that you could have for a desktop computer. The apps for dive planning didn't even really exist in those days. So it was more heavy-winded. You needed to sit there in the classroom, plan the dive on the software, write out your main plan, write out backup plan number 1, backup plan number 2. And because of that, I mean, the program was there, but for this market of people, they didn't want that. They want to have the simplicity of being able to do basic dive planning, use the app on the phone, on their mixed gas computer, track their time to surface, track their minimum gas. So years ago, a program was there, but it was never fully received well because just technology was not there at the time. Track forward now 10 years later, and we have all of this equipment around us now, the computers, the transmitters, the apps and everything. And so the program now we can offer because it's easy for us to produce.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things at today's age that are only possible because of technology, and this is just one of them. I mean, so many things that we do now with our smartphones that 15 years ago we had to go run in circles, get gigantic computers and whatever to do. Yeah.
And sometimes we get presented as an agency, people are saying, no, but it's always changing. And they perceive change as a negative, change as being complicated. But it's like, actually, no, we should embrace change. If we created our programs 10 years ago and said, right, so for ease, we're not going to change anything, then we're never going to be able to do pragmatic diving. We're never going to be able to embrace what is around us now. I think as an agency would just be stale and old if we didn't look to keep updated with what is happening in our diving industry, with these technological advances, with the medical knowledge that we have, with the computer algorithms. I mean, there's so much that's constantly evolving in our industry. If we took the attitude, well, we don't want to change anything because that's easy, then right,
then we will get stuck. And especially in a time like now, with what's happening to the world, we need to open our minds and keep our industry alive, the whole industry.
Exactly, Linda. Change is good as long as change is in the right way, because the industry is developing. Not just that we're changing just for the sake of changing and pushing a paper around. As long as we're changing our programs, updating the programs to make sure that we are keeping at the forefront of the industry, then that's kind of where we want to be as an agency. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, 100%. So let's get into some facts. What are the requirements for somebody to become decompression diver?
So for entry into the program, the prerequisites, they would need to have 24 log dives. They should already hold the deep diver speciality, and they should be a nitrox diver as well. We've put these prerequisites in such a way Because from our side, we want people to learn about their equipment realistically as early as possible. You know, an open water diver already is now learning with a computer on their wrist. So if they've already got that on the wrist, why are we not then providing them with the opportunity to learn about all the functions of that computer? Some will say that having only 24 log dives is a small number. But as we know, everybody evolves in diving and develops as a diver at different rates and speeds. For us, as we know within SSI, we're a big agency pushing on experience and combination of experience and training. So we want them to get the dives. We want them to have the deep experience. If you have a diver who's doing deep dives, then potentially they're already going to 40 meters or close to. As we all know, getting closer to those depths, the decompression time, the no decompression time is already limited. So it can be also purely by accident that they are going beyond that no decompression limit. So from our side, it's really important that they have the knowledge of that computer. So if it does accidentally even go into a decompression mode, that they are not afraid because they don't understand what the screen is showing them. So yeah, we've put the prerequisites as the 24 log dives. They must have the deep speciality, so they have experience within, you know, that 20 to 40 meter range. Nitrox gas, of course, is important. I mean, technically, could you do all of this on air? Yes, you could, but time is getting really, really less. But also it's important from the nitrox side, because we want them to be able to what we call do a gas switch, which will be to a richer nitrox gas, which will ultimately make their dive, and it will increase the safety. They can accelerate their decompression within their limits. So having the nitrox certification basically is the requirement for increasing the efficiency of the dive.
Oh, and it 100% makes sense. Just like we said earlier, the diving is a spectrum where you learn certain things. If you now had to repeat all the things that you learn in deep diving and in nitrox in this program, then from a few day program, this is going to be a 2-week program all of a sudden, and it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think what we've tried to touch upon in the materials as well is that we recognize that the divers are coming in as certified deep divers, as certified nitrox divers, but it's still important to do a refresher, if you like, just make sure they really understand the practical application of that knowledge, especially the nitrox knowledge. What is important to note here with the nitrox certification, so the nitrox level 2, of course, will allow them to access anything up to 40% nitrox. So for this program, we're not dealing with pure oxygen, we're not dealing with 80%, we're dealing with the normal nitrox certification, which means then for a lot of the resort markets, they can produce the nitrox from their nitrox compressors. So when we're not dealing with the added complications of potentially the oxygen cleaning requirements and everything like that.
Yeah, no, and it makes it easier for everybody to reach, right? And that's essentially what we want to do. So let's talk a little bit more about the depth limitations. I mean, it is a recreational program after all, right?
Yeah, definitely. So for the program, we're not increasing the depth. So the diver already comes in, they have the deep speciality rating, already they are certified to 40 meters. So this program is not about increasing that depth. We're just teaching them how to go beyond that no decompression limit within that depth range. And this is a reflection of, again, a lot of that resort market or where dives are being done, where this little bit of decompression is a bonus to have. So if they're doing dives, for example, you know, if you're looking at the Zenobia wreck, you know, it's a massive wreck. To try and do it justice on a single dive, staying within the decompression limit is really hard.
Yeah,
right?
you have to have some cardio training.
And there's many wrecks worldwide which fall within this depth range of between, let's say, 20 to 30 or 20 to 35 meters, where just having that ability to do limited decompression already just increases the value of that dive, especially when you've spent so much money to go to some of these places.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess with wrecks, especially, it's a bit in the wreck's nature, because if it's anything shallower than 20 meters, they usually get damaged over the years. So well-preserved wrecks are usually always beyond 20.
And wrecks are a perfect example of where our pragmatic diving comes in, because as we know, wrecks are not always going to be at one level. Wrecks are going to be at multi-levels. If they're sat on the keel, you'll have your deepest part, then your bridge is at the shallowest part. Historically, when you had to plan a decompression dive just by software, in essence, you had to plan it as a square dive profile. We didn't have the ability for tracking multi-level. Whereas these days, with the computers on the wrist, you establish a maximum time to surface. But then as you're doing your dive and you're coming up slightly shallower on a wreck, that time to surface gets a little bit further away. So you're constantly making your dive just much more efficient as you're then sort of, changing your depth ranges. And that's one of the massive bonuses of this type of pragmatic diving and using TTS as one of our limits.
Siddhartha is asking, how does a recreational instructor get this rating, and what are the requirements for the instructor?
Yeah, good question. And actually we have a couple of different options. So first of all, if you are an existing decompression instructor, meaning if you hold the SSI extended range nitrox instructor or higher, or if you are a CCR extended range instructor or higher, or the SCR extended range instructor, meaning that you have already been evaluated, you're already a certified instructor teaching decompression techniques. If you hold one of those ratings, then you can actually, through the MySSI online system, click under the sponsored upgrades, go through all of the materials to make sure you understand fully the concepts, the philosophy, what are our in-water requirements, and you can automatically gain this rating. Yeah, so that's the first option for existing technical instructors. For everybody else, because this is a normal recreational speciality, then the normal ways to gain the instructor rating will apply. You can either do it by co-teaching, or we've got the seminar option. Yeah. So both of those options are readily available to all of the recreational instructors to do. So think of it really no different than any of the other recreational specialty instructor ratings.
Do they have to have any required specialty instructor ratings, like the students have to have the specialties like deep and nitrox?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, the requirements for the instructor will kind of almost mimic what they need to have as the student. The only difference that we have there in addition is we also want them to have the science of diving. The science of diving really will help the instructor to explain more of the background towards the physics part and the physiology part. At the diver level, we're not making it mandatory for them to have it, but in the instructor level, yeah, for sure, we want to have their knowledge just that little bit of a step up.
Yeah. Okay, now we come to a question that actually answers something asked from the audience, from Benjamin earlier. And that is, what extra equipment do we need? What do you need if you already have your full recreational scuba setup?
So yeah, that's the nice thing. Not much more. Because this is a decompression program, then we are using a separate decompression gas. So this would be in the form of a stage cylinder on the side. So depending on your location, if you're in the resort market, you might be renting that stage bottle. If you're on the domestic market, then maybe you've purchased your own. For that stage bottle, it will need to have a decompression regulator or a stage regulator to go with it. Again, from my side, it's always best to have your own, because then you configure it exactly the way that you want to have it. But of course, again, in the resort markets, these would be available to rent. So in addition to your recreational total diving system, we've got the stage tank, the stage regulator. We do encourage and recommend very highly for divers to be carrying 2 dive computers. It is not mandatory, but it is definitely a very strong recommendation that if divers are going to go into decompression, if their computer should fail, of course, they would do the normal procedure, staying with their buddy, just like they would on a recreational dive. But we really want to start to introduce more of the concepts of self-sufficiency and this increased safety. So a second dive computer is a recommendation. Likewise, for us, we would say a backup mask. Again, it's not mandatory, but you kind of need your eyes in the water.
Because now you have 2 computers, but you don't see it.
Right? I mean, for me, and again, maybe once you start doing technical diving, your concepts and your mind approaches changes, and you realize, well, take away my eyes underwater and I'm lost. So even from a recreational diver's perspective, I would always be saying to have a backup of that. But as I say, these are recommendations. But for a diver wanting to join this program, mandatory, what extra do they need to have? So the computer should have the multi-gas function. They need the stage cylinder and the stage regulator. Not really equipment, but what they would also need to have access to, which is easy these days, either through the tablet or through the phone, would be the dive planning software app. Multiples of these available on the market. Some you can pay money for, some are free. The instructor will go through that. But these days, nobody is leaving home. Everybody's on their boats with their smartphones because they're using it for cameras and everything like that. So there's no real excuse from that side anymore.
I think it's also important to mention with the computers, you don't have to have 2 of the top range of computers. Like that doesn't have to be, you don't have to run with 2 Icon HDs, for example.
Would be nice. But no, I mean,
but always long enough.
The technology with the computers is just developed so much over the years, and these days you can really have an affordable multi-gas, so you can put 2 nitrox gases into it and it is not going to break the bank. There's multiples on the market. If you're looking at the Murray Smart or the quads, I mean, for those that want, if you want to go the upper end, and you can go like for the Genius route, big screen, colors, gives them trimix capabilities, because maybe later on in their diving pathway they want to do more. But no, it doesn't have to be computers that are singing and dancing. I would these days be doing a recommendation to buy one that does have the gas integration capability. So you can have the transmitter then fitted to your primary cylinder, and when you plan your dive, we calculate what we call the minimum gas. The minimum gas meaning this is the lowest my cylinder pressure can get to before I need to make my ascent. And that minimum gas will include not only the gas that I need as an individual to make my ascent and my decompression. That minimum gas is based on, let's say, 2 of us making the ascent. So imagine you were in an out of gas situation. So the minimum gas is enough for both of us to make the ascent. Once we get to our decompression depth, then we would switch onto a decompression gas. Now, it could also be, it would be really unlucky, but it could also be that maybe I have an issue with my decompression gas and it's inaccessible. It's a really bad day at the office, but it could be. So the minimum gas is enough for both of us to make the ascent. And it's enough gas for, if my deco cylinder is inaccessible, I can still do this all on the back gas. So this minimum gas is a really important number. For safety wise, we need to adhere to this. The greatest thing is with the computers that have the transmitters is that you can set the minimum gas as the gas reserve. And actually on some of them, it's going to give you a countdown to when you're going to reach that gas limit. So now when you're diving along, it's super easy. I'm monitoring my time to surface to make sure I'm not reaching that limit. I'm monitoring my gas reserve to make sure I'm not reaching that limit. And I adjust my dive accordingly. So for me now, gas integration with the transmitters, I think these just provide this extra valuable information, which just makes the whole dive easier to manage. So yeah. But any computer that's got two gases can do, but gas integration is probably going to be the way forward.
100%. I mean, it's also just so much more convenient. And that's actually this actually comes into my next question is like, who did you think about when creating this program? And I think convenience is a big factor there, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, who do we think about with this program? I'll make a confession. When me and my husband are diving together in the Red Sea from a recreational perspective, we're probably very typical of many other resort divers in that we follow the computers, yes, and as the deco time goes down, but there's still maybe some sharks out there, or maybe we're exploring a little bit more of the wreck, and we would also be the ones who maybe push that boundary. I will be honest, yes, we've also gone into decompression. So there's this big audience there. If we're doing it, then I know many others are as well. So yeah. Again, we can be naive and pretend that's not happening, or we can go, hey, they're doing it, it's there. Let's give those people, like we would have wanted as well, the training to be able to do that in a safe way. Let's increase the safety of it and acknowledge it rather than turn the blind eye. So yeah, that's a big marketplace that's there.
And I mean, let's be real, if there's something cool to see during your dive, it usually happens in those last few minutes where you're like holding your
exactly. I think as a safari guide, we'll be in the water and inevitably you'll hear the telltale, the sound of the computer, the long beep as it's clicked over into decompression. Or also the giveaway is at the end of the dive when everybody's doing their safety stop and you've got a diver hanging under the boat. It's like, well, I'm sure they've been there for more than 3 minutes and 5 minutes and 7 minutes. Or the other one where they come out of the water and they say, please don't pull up the hang tank. And we're like, why not? My computer's still down on it. So, yeah.
Naughty divers.
But it's happening. And yes, naughty divers. So rather than just give them grief for it, let's provide them with the training so they can actually do what they are capable of doing and let them be proud of doing it. Yeah. Let them do it in the right way. Let them encourage others to do it in the right way as well. Yeah. Rather than just penalize them.
No, and I agree 100%. So Sabra is asking a question, and that is, how do you deal with narcosis as the plant depths are deeper than 30 meters in deco diving?
Well, in all honesty, how would you deal with it when you're teaching the deep speciality? Yeah? There is no difference, right? Because this program does not have greater depth than the deep speciality does. So if you're in a region where, let's say, you have more favorable conditions,
which Sabra is in Indonesia.
There we go. So then you have to take each diver, within their own limits. So I'm not always going to be saying that you need to be going to 40 meters. Some people are experiencing narcosis 30 meters, some even shallower than that. You need to do the depth progression of the dives to make sure that students are staying within their comfort and within their ability level exactly the same way like if they were doing the deep speciality program. Now, I know in other regions, such as here now in the UK, if I'm in an inland site, I mean, depth is much more challenging because of the limited visibility, because of the colder water, hard work. So I've done dives here where you can be as shallow as 12 meters and it's cold and it's dark. And so, of course, narcosis is going to be much more of an influence there. So, my answer to that is don't overcomplicate it. Stick with your teaching techniques like you would for the deep speciality. Make sure you're doing the depth progression, but ensuring that your students are staying, as I say, within their comfort and with their ability range. And if there's ever a doubt, then you always stay shallower. What will be an interesting point for the future is that with our extended range nitrox program, and I kind of go off route a little bit here, is that is also a 40-meter program, but we're hopefully in the future going to introduce a trimix element to that. So for these regions where the conditions are very hostile, then it can be that we can have a trimix option for that program. We're not even going to rule out that maybe within this recreational program, a trimix option may come in. Our industry is leading much more towards the attention to the breathing gas, the gas density, the weight of the gas, and how this can influence accidents in a positive or negative way. We know that deep air diving is not as safe. And over the years, more and more people are turning away from deep air diving, and SSI are going to be doing exactly the same thing. So as it stands at the moment, this program and the recreational programs are non-trimix, but I would be saying watch this space, because I'm sure in the future, to maintain diver safety for those who are going to dive in these more hostile conditions, I think we're going to love to have that trimix option there. It does add a more element of complexity to the academics, but if that will increase safety, I think that's not a bad compromise.
100%. And but on that point is like, I don't know how many years ago, looking at nitrox was something crazy, was something like that would not happen. But now nitrox is one of the most common things that you have in every resort, that every diver should have. It's one of the, it is by far the most popular specialty out there. And like I said, many years ago, that was the different gas, the scary thing.
Exactly. I think, we have a duty in the industry and as the training agency to set the right way forward in terms of diver safety. Already our team of training directors for XR are very heavily focused on step-by-step removing these air options from open circuit and especially from rebreathers. It's progressive. We can't just simply say, right now take all air diving below 30 meters away. We're not able to do that, but we're definitely able to step-by-step progressively start to introduce the trimix at earlier stages during training, and then slowly we can remove the deeper air parts as well. So I can see in the future that that's definitely where we want to be at.
So how long does it roughly take? And obviously this is like any training course. It depends if you do it over weekends or if you do it over a few evenings. But what is like the recommended training duration for a decompression diver program?
I mean, as you say, it all depends on the logistics of where it's being taught. But in essence, you've got, of course, academics. These days, because we have everything digitally wise, a lot of the students are going to do most of their reading online prior to arriving, perhaps for training. They can even do an online exam as well. So, you can minimize the time spent with the student having to read the book. Of course, what COVID has introduced us to is distance learning. So just as we're doing these interviews now, for people who are unable to move around, academics can also be done from this distance learning, whether it's by whatever platform, Zoom or Teams or any of the other ones. But the practical components, so there is a confined session, and then there's 3 open water dives to go with it. The confined session, we moved a little bit away from the traditional 5-meter depth limitation. So majority of recreational programs, if there's a confined, it's 5-meter. We've moved slightly away from that, and we're allowing 12 meters, because this will then open up the access to those resort markets, especially the liverboards, the safari markets, where on day one of a safari, they're doing a check dive somewhere. It will be shallow water, it will be sheltered, but it may not be that they can get shallower than 5 meters. So we've had a 12-meter confined, and then, as I say, the 3 open water dives. Progressively, you can increase the depth, starting off with just skills, moving into simulated deco before you move into real deco. So I can say that from a resort market, this program, for sure, you should be able to get it done in 3 days. But as I say, it depends on the logistics of where you're actually going to be training at. So.
Okay, nice one. We have a bunch of comments that go into a very technical standpoint and ask about other agency things. I think this is stuff that if we not mentioned them here, we're going to come back later and comment, give you answers in writing if there's anything, because we still in the recreational topic here, and it wouldn't really give a lot of benefits to our recreational listeners, I believe, because it's Scuba Sunday, not TikTok Tuesday.
I mean, it's inevitable, and here's where we're kind of in this gray area, because we are now building and designing this program for the recreational market, but yet, of course, it does have strong overlaps with the technical market. So yeah, for sure, we'll go through all of the questions and comments, and I can answer them directly as well there.
Awesome. Well, this brings me actually to my last question, and this is more something personal to you. You're a training director, you do XR, you do a bit of recreational, you dabble in new grounds, but what is your favorite program to teach? It's one of my, out of all the things that you can teach, which is almost everything.
For me, it changes. I know with some of my colleagues, the training directors for extended range, I know for them, you know, they'll be happy if they're always on their rebreather, or they're happy now if they're always on their horizon, or, you know, they're happy when they're teaching, they say, the hypoxic programs, the deep programs. For me, it changes a lot. And I think maybe that's, dare I say, it's an age thing. You know, I used to love teaching the deeper programs. You know, the first time that somebody sees like 100 meter on their computer, there is such a pride, there is such a sense of personal achievement that program, when I was teaching it, was just so rewarding. Whereas these days, it changes a lot, especially with the new addition of the Horizon rebreather, now the semi-closed. To get people to try this type of equipment is the first time that they've ever been in on anything apart from a scuba cylinder. And because it's so easy to dive, they just put it on their back, they jump in, we swim around, and they get comfort and ease so quickly that the satisfaction process of that, it's amazing. And they come out and you see their faces, because they always thought that like rebreather diving was a world away for them, but yet they've just done it. So that's also really rewarding. But I'll be honest now, when we were doing the trials, let's say, of this decompression diving, because I went to a few service centers, and many thanks to my guinea pigs who were testing it out for me, they know who they are. And these were pure recreational instructors or recreational trainers, and they had never done any decompression, but not officially, that they told me anyway. And so to take them through this training to now enable them to go beyond that decompression and realize what their computer is showing them, that was so rewarding, because for many of them, they'd always considered decompression and technical, it's out of their realm. But yet now they saw how simplistic it can be. There's rules, yes, for sure. There is safety, there's protocols, yes. But it is accessible and it's manageable. And so that was really rewarding, working with the recreational professionals as well, to just to give them that little taster of what my world of XR is about. Because to me, as I've tried to always say, that diving is progressive. It shouldn't be that anything feels so far away. So to be able to give them this nice taster, this introduction into what we do in technical diving, is also really rewarding. So that probably doesn't answer your question at all.
Good enough though. What I really enjoyed about that answer is also it shows so much how diving has developed just in the last few years. Like you just said earlier, with the computer developments, with all the air integrations, with the horizon coming, it shows that diving is not finished. Which for a few years before that, it always kind of felt like there's not much open space. And I feel that perspective for me has 180% turned around. And now you see there's still so much to come. And there's technology out there that we're still missing.
Our industry is constantly evolving. And if it gets to the day where it stops, then that's the day that I stop. But it is constantly evolving. And I'm lucky to be with such a team of recreational professionals, extended range professionals, where everybody wants to embrace those changes. Everybody wants to evolve. I mean, the demand we have for the creation of new programs as new equipment is available. I mean, it's incredible. It's such a privilege to be with a group of passionate people and with an agency that keeps wanting to push those boundaries, that keeps wanting to push forward. So for me, it's super exciting. I wouldn't want to be really anywhere else.
I'm just still getting a few questions, not much. Dave is asking, he would love to know if the TTS planning methodology will be integrated into any XR materials. I have no idea what I just asked you. Go ahead.
So the answer is yes. Yeah. I mean, you have to imagine that the existing extended range materials, so the extended range book, the technical extended range book, the hypoxic book, so these were all written, I mean, before I came into SSI, right? So when they have their update, then of course the new methods of planning for sure will be introduced. This is not going to be overnight. It takes time to revise programs, but the decompression diving now, the new program sets out, the philosophy with pragmatic and TTS, and for sure as we update the others, then similar philosophies will actually come through. So yes is the answer.
Great. I just also want to make that point again that you made in the beginning. It takes a lot of work to create our materials. It's not just one person sitting in front of a computer creating a PDF. There's a lot of us involved.
Definitely so. And it's kind of nice from my side at the moment, working behind the scenes with that development team more and more. So even I understand that it's not just a click of the button and everything comes on. There's a lot more that goes to it, but which is good, because this is what makes our materials as interactive as they are. This means we can edit them as we see fit. We can share them over the platform. So it is it's a time-taking process, but it's a requirement. You need that time to get the level of product that we have out.
And the quality, and making it possible on the app, on the computer, making it possible in so many different variants. It's like you said, it's not just a PDF that comes to you. It's
right,
all these different formats. So yeah, we're really happy that decompression diving is a new program for us, and it was really great talking to you. I think we don't have any more questions.
I think so. And as I said, we'll go through the list of people who have made comments and questions, and if I can clarify anything further, then absolutely will. But no, it's been nice to be able to talk a little bit more about the program and the rationale behind it. And yeah, we're very confident with it. We're very happy with the outcome of it. So now we need the world to open up so we can all get out there and do more of it.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, thank you so much, Kat. Thanks for coming. For everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed what we just said. If you are rewatching it later, you can still make comments. We will still come back and give you some answers in the comments, or you can just send the DM to SSI. It will always come to the right person, and you will get your answer for sure. And yeah, otherwise, just a quick side note, this is one of our Facebook Lives. All of them are slowly going on to anywhere where you listen to your podcast with the Dive Around the World podcast. So we're taking these Facebook Lives and they go on there. So you can listen to the ones from the beginning of, it was like last year when we started. So we have a podcast now.
That's exciting, huh? Something new again.
On Spotify, on Apple Music, you can find it everywhere. Yeah. Dive Around the World, it's called.
That was well plugged. Well done.
Thanks. Otherwise, we'll be back with another destination special very soon. Don't know the destination just yet. Let's get surprised. And thank you very much. Thanks, Kat.
All right then. So that's it. Bye everybody for now. Give us a shout.
Bye.